Hey, this is John Young. We're going to talk a little bit in this video about why DJs, specifically newer DJs who have never been to a DJ convention, why most of them don't go. And this is something that Cedric Jones, one of my friends here on Facebook, he did a little video. He actually put up a post on different in different DJ groups asking, why don't you go to DJ conventions? And he got a lot of the typical answers. And these have been the same answers that have all gone all the way back to the early 2000s in year 2 or 3 or 4 of the DJ conventions. Things such as that it's a good old boys club. It's it's an ego party. There's people are selling things from the stage, and it's just a big infomercial. There's just a variety of different things that have been used. And what I want to do is do real talk about why a lot of people who've never been to a show, because a lot of the people who reply or comment on those types of threads have never darkened the doorway of a show. They have gotten something in their head, and they've used that as an excuse. And I think the real reason why a lot of DJs, if they really get honest with themselves, they don't have to be honest with me or you, but they need to be honest with themselves, is that it's fear. Fear is why a lot of them aren't going to go. Fear because you're going to be going into a room, and there are some very successful DJs there. There are some people who have skills at a level that blow my mind. And I can do quite a few things, but there are people with skills I'm not even close to the best in any room I am in a convention center when I'm there. There's a fear for that. The fear that, oh my gosh, I might be found out I'm a fraud. There's that little things in the back of our mind that just will eat at us as we look at this. It's like, it's exciting, the idea of going and seeing our friends, but there's a fear factor we have to get over to get there. It might be a fear of, will I be able to make enough return? This is an investment, and will I be able to make enough off this? That was really what held me back the very first few years, is that, okay, I know it's going to cost me $1,500 at that time, roughly, per person to fly down there and do everything. Can I recoup the cost on that, or am I just going to be throwing this money away and then come back and be no better with that? There was that fear of, in essence, making a bad decision, and I that was a huge thing for me. As time has gone on, and I've gone to different conventions, I go to some conventions outside our industry that are dealing with social media or something. I go to those, and it's like I feel like I'm like going to be I'm concerned I'm the weakest person there, and if somebody's going to come up and talk to me and start asking me questions, I'm going to be found out that I'm this fraud and don't know what I'm doing, and I'm incompetent, and I don't know whatever this thing is, and yeah, there's fear involved with these things, and sometimes it takes us to get beyond that. Now, why we have to understand that there is fear behind that is because we then let these excuses that we come up with, we see something and we're like, yep, that's it. That's why I'm not going to go. It's because they're selling from the stage. Yes, there's a couple of people who will maybe offer some things for sale from the stage. In all of my years of going to conventions, there's probably been 4 seminars that the person on the stage I felt wasn't giving information that much. They were basically trying to pitch something. Yes, they may have back of the room sales, but generally they're giving you information, and if you want additional to go beyond this, it's in the back of the room. That happens an awful lot. And that doesn't mean that what they're giving me is bad. It means that they probably only have a half hour to 45 minutes, and they have 5 hours of content. So it's not a bad thing. It's usually a bonus when you can buy something from the back of the room. But there have been like 4 or 5. We're talking 4 or 5 in 25 years of DJ conventions. So for those of you who are like, it's always that way. Yeah, no, it's not always that way. Most of the time, there's nothing being sold because the person that they're speaking has paid their way to get there. They have flown there. They've paid for their hotel room. They have practiced. They have studied. They have done all these things on their own dime. And now they're up there, and they're not even selling anything in the back of the room. Truthfully, they should have a tip cup out there. Most speakers in our industry should have a tip cup out there because this is them investing to help others in the room. And some are good at it, and as far as the content they give out is worth going up there and dropping $100 in a tip cup, no questions asked. And there's others that are just learning and they're getting started, and some shouldn't be up there. And I'll be very honest, that I've seen numerous that this is not their strong part, but they try because they want to give back to an industry that has given them so much. So back to why most who've never been there, it's a fear thing. Once you've been there, now there's a lot of excuses of why you probably may not want to come back. It might be that this is not your crowd. Some conventions are very wedding DJ-esque. Some conventions are crazy loud and obnoxious to a point. And for some people, that's not the way they operate. So I can understand once you have been there and you can make that judgment and say this isn't for you. Some are more low key that this would be a better fit. Like in the Midwest, we've got some that are probably a little bit lower key than what used to be in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. The very first few times that we went to those two on the East and West like that, it was kind of a culture shock for those of us from the Midwest. Those have been toned down over the years. They aren't exactly what they used to be as far as it goes there. But once you've been there, then you can make those judgments and say that, the content, maybe that it's a wedding and you're not a wedding DJ. Maybe you're a school DJ and there's really nothing for you. Yep, that happens. There's many a times when we're putting together a convention schedule as someone who's produced shows, and it's tough to find people who are competent to speak on that have a track record and are good people and all the different things that you want to have that you're going to put up on a stage to represent you as the show producer. Not everybody fits into checks all those boxes for you to put them up on stage. So if you're a type of DJ that isn't represented at a convention, it may not be so much that the promoter is wanting to diss your type of DJing. It might be that they just could not find someone who could bring that content. Maybe it's something when a call was put out, the promoter wanted to say, hey, can anybody send in your little application and we'll take a look and fill out the speaker evaluation, or excuse me, the speaker application. A lot of people don't do that, and I really don't know why. They complain like, oh, I've never been asked to speak. Well, in this day and age, it's not so much you ask to. I don't ask people to speak as much as people are, like, hey, I put anybody interested, and then they come forward and say, yeah, I'd like to try that. So there's a variety of different things. It may not fit you. It may not fit your style. It may not fit your personality. I get that. And that's completely. It might be the wrong time of the year. I've got friends who are teachers and they have their summers off. And they're like, in the summer, I'm doing weddings and I want to spend the time with my family. And then during the school year, they can't take as much time off. They can maybe take a few days off here and there, but it's tough in some professions to be able to take time off. And if you've got a full-time job, yeah, it could be something that you just can't do. So there's reasons, and everyone who's got has been there and make that decision that this is worth more than that, I can appreciate that, and I wholeheartedly support you. For the folks who basically have looked at it and just blown it off and said, oh, I've heard that they like green there, and green is a bad color, so I'm never going to go. Yeah, I don't go with that because there's probably something else behind it, and many times that is fear.